Hello, welcome back to Free Spirit Yoga. I'm Sally and today is day 22 of the Samaritans 30-day yoga challenge. So we're into the last full week of the challenge. Today we're going to be coming back to look at yoga foundations. This is the final time that we'll look at yoga foundations in this challenge. And we're going to be looking at some foundational yoga asana, some key yoga asana, and also we'll be looking at our foundations in those asanas. So our foundations are the point where our body is in contact with the ground beneath us, and we'll be really concentrating on looking at having a strong foundation in our yoga asana. Okay, let's get started. We're going to begin today's session in a standing position so that we can really practice mountain pose, which is a really key foundational pose of yoga asana. So remember, in mountain pose, we stand with our feet about hip distance apart. So make sure that is hip distance apart, not pelvis distance apart. You can feel where your hip joint is by just placing your finger around this location and just bending your knee, lifting your knee. You'll feel where your hip joint is, and just place your foot directly underneath your hip joint. Okay, so they're hip distance apart. Now they should also be parallel with each other, facing straight forward, except for some people that's not necessarily true. You'll notice that when I stand with my feet facing directly forwards, that my knees are facing directly forwards. Now for some people, if their feet are facing directly forwards, their knees are actually turned in like this. So if that is the case for you, then your feet should just be ever so slightly turned out in this position so that your knees are facing forward. So just check that out for yourself. Okay, then also remember that we're going to lift the chest. So imagine that there's a string coming from your chest. It's getting lifted up towards the ceiling. And this means that your shoulders come back, your arms just hang by your side. Okay, our face is just looking directly forwards. We've not got our chin lifted, we've not got our chin coming down towards our chest, just in a neutral position. Engage your thigh muscles so that you're holding yourself nice and steady. And we're just going to close our eyes and draw our focus to our breath. Initially not trying to control our breath, just noticing our breath. We're going to deepen our breath, breathing in and out through our nose. Long, slow, deep breaths, allowing your tummy to come out as you inhale and your diaphragm pushes down. And then drawing your tummy in, your belly button towards your spine as you exhale, as your diaphragm relaxes back up again. This will also help to push the air up and out of your lungs. If you can, breathe with that ujjayi breath, the ocean sound breath that we have practiced, where you slightly constrict the back of your throat to create that hissing sound, the sound of the ocean. Then do so. Just further help to slow your breath and draw your attention to your breath. Slowly opening your eyes. Okay, we're going to begin just by warming up our feet so that they can provide us with a nice strong foundation. So we're going to come up onto our tiptoes and then rock back onto our heels, up onto our tiptoes, back onto our heels. This is good for both increasing the flexibility in our feet and also strengthening our foot, ankle and calf muscles, in fact our thigh muscles as well. If you notice what muscles are working while we're making this movement, you'll notice that all of your leg muscles are engaging, including your bottom, your glutes. All of having these muscles strong is going to really help our foundation in standing asanas and also just be beneficial in everyday life. You feel that those muscles starting to burn now? Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to start off by practicing the chair pose, which we have practiced before, not for a while, but it was more towards the beginning of the challenge. So I'm going to face sideways so that you can see me more clearly, the position of my body. But what you can't see so well from the side is that I'm standing with my feet hip distance apart as I do in mountain pose. So just spend a couple of moments just making sure that you've got that strong foundation with your feet, that your feet are parallel with each other at hip distance apart. Really spread the toes and root down into the floor. And for chair pose, remember, we're going to inhale and bring our arms up so that they're about 60 degrees. Maybe you can manage a little bit higher depending on the flexibility of your shoulders. Our hands should be about shoulder width apart with the palms facing each other, straight arms. And we're going to look to the space between our hands. As we exhale, bend our knees as if we're sitting down in a chair. Really keep the weight spread equally over your feet. Try not to let your arms come down like this. Try to keep them in the original position. We're just sinking down low with the body. Breathing steadily. Good. And then inhale, straighten your knees. Exhale your arms down. Good, so that was the chair pose. Now we're going to practice the warrior two pose that we have practiced again before. We're going to come and stand facing the side of our mat. And we're going to stand with our feet apart so that we feel a decent stretch here in our adductor muscles, the muscles that run along the inside of our thigh. And we can adjust our foot positioning in a moment, and I'll tell you how to tell whether you need to adjust your foot positioning. To start off with, we need to stand with our toes just pointing ever so slightly in, ever so slightly pigeon-toed. And again, just make sure that you've got a good strong foundation. Really feel like you're pushing down through the floor, rooting down through the floor. Spread those toes a little bit. And we're going to start off by turning the right foot out to face the top of the mat. So now the heel of this foot is roughly in line with the arch of the other foot. So just check that you have that foot positioning correct. Again, spread the toes, really spread the weight equally across the foot. Feel as if you're really rooting down into the floor. And then bend your right knee so that it comes over your ankle. Our hips are still facing to the side. Now at this point you need to evaluate to see whether your feet are in the correct position, that they're far enough apart. So if your knee is really coming over your ankle, more over your toes, then you can move the back foot back a little bit because you're not stretching enough. If, however, your knee is really tracking in like this, then move your back foot in a little bit because you're stretching too much, you're overstretching. So just evaluate your foot positioning now. And then we're going to inhale, raise our arms up to about shoulder level, really reaching our fingertips out to each side. And we're going to gaze to our right fingertips. That's our gaze point, or it's what is called our drishti in Sanskrit. It helps to keep our focus, helps to keep our mind from wandering. And just breathe steadily. Good. And exhale your arms down. Inhale, straighten your knee. Now we're going to stay in this position. We're going to practice a new asana that we haven't yet practiced in this 30-day challenge. It's called triangle pose. It's quite an intense asana. So just see how you get on. What we're going to do is keep our foot positioning in the same position, our lower body in the same position. And we're going to bring our arms out to the side, this time with our palms facing forwards. So really engage your thigh muscles, make sure you've got a strong foundation, spread the weight across your feet. As you then exhale, reach out to the right, and then bring your right arm down and your left arm up so that they stay roughly in line with each other. Try not to lean forwards. That means you lose that stretch down this side. Try to keep this left hip pointed to the ceiling. Good, it's quite intense, eh? Inhale and come up. That's the triangle pose. Now we're going to practice both the warrior two pose and the triangle pose on the other side. So now turning your right foot back to face the side of the mat, toes ever so slightly turned in. Turning the left foot out to face the top of the mat now. Just taking a couple of moments to check your foot positioning, check that your heel of your left foot is roughly in line with the arch of your right foot. Bend your knee and check that your feet are the correct distance apart. Remember, the hips are facing to the side. And then inhale your arms up, reaching out to each side, gazing towards your left fingertips. That's your drishti, your gaze point. And breathe steadily. Exhale your arms down. Inhale, straighten your left knee. Now we're going to come into the triangle pose on this side. So again, just engaging your leg muscles, really rooting yourself down through the floor to keep your lower body still. Reaching your arms out to each side at about shoulder level, palms facing forwards. Exhale as you reach out to the left side, and then bring your left arm down and your right arm up so that they are roughly in line with each other. Remember, keep that right hip here facing towards the ceiling. Don't collapse in on yourself. And inhaling, coming up. Exhaling your arms down. Turning your left foot back to face the side of the mat, and see if you can hop your feet together. Good. Okay, one more standing asana. We're going to practice that tree pose that we've practiced before. So this is a balance on one foot. We're going to start off by balancing on the left foot. So just spend a few moments making sure you've got a strong foundation with your left foot. Make sure it's facing forward. Spread the toes. Spread your weight equally across the foot. Draw yourself up nice and straight and tall. Engage your core muscles. We're going to bring our hands into prayer position at our heart center. And then bring the sole of the right foot onto the inside of the left calf so that the knee comes out to the side. Look at something ahead of you that's not moving. That will help you to maintain your balance. Remember, engage those core muscles. Breathe steadily. And now on the other side, so now balancing on the right foot, again just take that time to make sure you've got that strong foundation, really root down into the floor, spread the weight across the foot. Hands in prayer position, engage your core muscles, draw yourself up nice and straight and tall. Bring the sole of the left foot onto the inside of the right calf. Looking straight ahead of you at something that's not moving, to help you maintain your balance. Good. And release. Okay, don't worry if you're still wobbling around everywhere. My balance used to be absolutely terrible. I used to have flat feet as a kid. It's taken me a long time to build up that foot and ankle muscles so that my foot doesn't roll. So just practice it. Keep on practicing. Build up the strength in your feet, in your ankles, in your leg muscles, in all of your core muscles. That's going to help you to maintain that balance. Okay then, now we're going to come down to the mat. Just a couple more asana before we come into Shavasana. So let's come down onto the mat, onto all fours. Now remember, this is called tabletop position, so let's just concentrate on our foundations in tabletop position, because it is a position that we come into to practice a few different asanas, cat-cow for example, that we've practiced quite a lot throughout this challenge. So your hands should be directly underneath your shoulders and your knees should be directly underneath your hips. Now the only exception to this would be if this feels like a lot of pressure on your wrists at this stage, if it really is causing you a lot of discomfort, then to take the direct pressure off of your wrists, you can just move your hands slightly further forward. You'll feel that relieve that pressure on your wrists. But do make sure that you've got a nice stable base with your hands by really spreading your fingers and again rooting down into the floor, really pushing your hands into the floor and spreading the weight equally over the whole hand. Okay, so this is tabletop position. Last of all, we're just going to come into that downwards facing dog position, asana that we've practiced again quite a lot throughout this challenge. So the best way to come into that pose at this stage is to start from tabletop position and then tuck your toes under, push your bottom up and back, and really push down into the floor with your hands. Really put the weight onto your hands. Bring your head between your arms to look up towards your belly button. Now with your legs and your feet, it doesn't matter if your heels are coming all the way down to the mat. If you've got tighter hamstrings and tighter calves, then that may not happen. Your heels may be more up like this. That's absolutely fine, but what you should be doing is trying to bring the heels down towards the mat as you push the bottom up and back, so that there's a tension. Your bottom is going up towards the ceiling while your heels are coming down towards the floor. Again, if your feet are flat on the floor, try to spread your weight equally across the entire foot, or try to spread the weight equally across the portion of the foot that's in contact with the floor. There's Catherine. Okay, and release. slowly lowering your knees back down to the mat. It's time for Savasana. So let's come and lay on our backs on the mat with our feet slightly apart, our legs straight, our arms slightly out away from the side of the body with the palms facing up to the ceiling. So our whole body is the foundation in this asana. Just allow your whole body to relax, to feel as if it's sinking into the floor. Don't hold tension in any of your muscles. Close your eyes. Just let go. This is a really important asana, the most important asana in yoga. Okay, bringing your legs together, bending your knees, rolling slowly, gently over onto one side and slowly pushing yourself up to a seated position. Okay, thank you very much for joining me for day 22. On tomorrow to day 23, where we'll be looking at moving with breath, a bit of flow yoga. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel and donate money to the Samaritans following the links below. See you tomorrow.